Hello, welcome back we're in day 3 of the summit now, and we have Azizi Birkeland with us today. Welcome, Azizi.
Thank you.
I am so excited for this. Azizi is going to be talking about project-based learning in Paradise. So I can't wait to get into this and read and learn more about your books. I purposefully have not dive too much into your background or anything like that so that I get to experience it along with everybody else. Yes. So I will hop into the background and leave it to you. Thank you so much for what you're about to bring for us.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. Whether you're watching the replay or you're watching it live, welcome. And we are going to have a good time here. By the time you are finished, you are going to be a pro at project-based learning in Paradise, at home, on the road, wherever. This is not going to be anything you don't know, but you'll probably get some aha moments. Okay, yes, because a lot of things that we're doing out here in the world, I mean, let's face it, we're out in the world. We're not exactly reinventing the world. We're just living in the world in the way that we can really thrive. And when we can do it with our families on the road, out in the world, it can be such a great and rewarding experience. But then there's also that part of, is my child actually learning? And so what if I told you that a simple conversation in a Guatemalan kitchen led to a plant-based cooking program online that's already served over thousands of families? Now, what if I also told you that scuba diving for my daughter would end up with a book publishing contract, we self-publish, but a published book deal? And what else can you do with project-based learning? Well, we're going to find out. It doesn't always have to be business, but we're going to get right into that. And what I realized as I was going through my notes and coming up with all of this, that it all spelled out the word passion. So it's easy to remember. And I'm going to be going over this passion method that I created for you to be able to do project-based learning out there in the world or right in your own home, because I'm sure there are probably some of you who are homeschooling and you're wondering, how can I ramp it up? How can I spice it up? I don't just want to do curriculum-based learning. I'd love to do something that incorporates a little bit more of our personalities and passions and purpose. And so let's get into it. So I'm Azizi. I've been traveling out in the world really with my family since primarily 2017, although I did have my first daughter in London, where we lived for 5 years. My husband is Norwegian, so we're already an international family, with me being from the US and him being from Norway. We have 2 lovely, now teen daughters, but we started really hitting the road and traveling full time when they were 6 and 8, and they are now 13 and 15. So we've got a little bit of experience. And we've been homeschooling from the start. So we started out homeschooling before we hit the road. So we also were a little bit more seasoned and more comfortable with going off script. And so when we were in Guatemala, and our family had suddenly transitioned to plant-based lifestyle, a lot of our relatives were worried about us. They suddenly just saw carrots on a plate and were thinking they're going to starve. They figured, how can they possibly get all of the nutrition they need on a plant-based diet? And my sweet daughter, Kaya, who is my oldest, she was 8 at the time, was really wanting to convince people that we're still eating and we're not hungry. We're not just eating carrots. So she said, hey, mommy, how about if we decide to send out a video to our family, and we'll just create a mommy and me cooking program, right? So you can picture 2 little girls in the kitchen. They're excited and they're cooking. And now they're wondering, what can we do with this? So my oldest daughter says, what if we made a mommy and me cooking video to send to our grandparents? Then they wouldn't be so worried. And so that single question, because my mind as a homeschool parent is constantly seeing light bulbs of ideas, I thought, as we started to design this Mommy and Me program, I realized, hey, Kaya, do you mind if we actually take this and put it into a full-fledged cooking program for others and not just our family? And I showed it to her, and she was like, this looks exciting. Yes. And my younger daughter, who was 6 at the time, she kind of gave her little 2 cents as well. And so we were in Guatemala. We stayed there for about 3 months, and I started to design the cooking program. They were talking about the things they'd like to see inside there and so forth. And so the first letter of our, I'm going to skip ahead. The first letter in our method, as I said, is the letter P. And so P stands for purpose. And so with Kaya, she had a purpose. It wasn't just to cook, and it wasn't just to tell family something. She really wanted her family to know that we were okay. And so that was our first purpose, was really to create something that we could show our family. But then me as the homeschooling parent said, hang on a minute, I think we can actually use this for something even bigger. And so then our purpose moved from just something as simple as sending out a mommy and me to grandparents and aunts and uncles to, I think we have a greater purpose here. I think our purpose is to share this message of plant-based eating with other families. Maybe they want to incorporate more plant-based eating, or maybe they're wondering if they can, or maybe they're just trying to get their children to eat more vegetables in a fun way. So we had our purpose, and that was already from their interest. It wasn't my idea, actually, to start this cooking program. Now, I'll admit, I am a chef. I'm a vegan chef, and I am a longtime home cook, and I have lots of the certifications. So no, this wasn't just something that maybe the average person would, but we're talking about what the purpose would be for you and your family. And for me and my family, this makes perfect sense. We cook a lot. We're constantly in the kitchen. My daughters love to eat then and now, and they actually enjoy teaching. They just have a natural passion for showing other kids and other people what they're learning, probably because of the way we've been homeschooling. So we had our purpose, and that purpose was enough for us to say, okay, let's get started. And so we get started, and then now we have to activate it, right? So we have a purpose, and now we have just something that we can start with. So say you have just this plant-based, this idea of helping out your family with understanding where you're at in life, right? So that's your purpose. And now we're going to activate it. Now, it doesn't mean that it had to end up being a whole big cooking program like we did with Tiny Green Chef. But for us, that really activated more of what we could possibly give. And with being able to do that, we just said, let's go for it. So some of the questions you might want to ask yourself when you're in that phase between purpose and passion is, what naturally engages your child? What problems do they see out in the world that maybe they want to solve in their own way? And what conversations spark their enthusiasm, right? We want to keep them engaged. And so any of that, and how do they respond to others' needs and others' concerns, right? So when we go to this place where we've identified something and it's an interest, now we're going to transform it into something dynamic, a dynamic learning experience. It could be a dynamic business. It could just be a dynamic hobby. All of that's honestly going to be a learning experience anyway, but we're thinking about what's it activating in us. Is it activating our business sense? Is it activating something to really get your child to learn something on a higher level? You know, for example, in my home, cooking is very important to me. It's one of those life skills that I felt like they were 100% necessary. And so they already were dabbling in the kitchen. This also activated in me, can I get them ready for cooking without me in the kitchen? I mean, ultimately, that's what our cooking program is for. But I got to try it out first and do it in my home by creating recipes and creating this complete cooking program for children while my daughters were cooking right alongside me, learning. So they weren't just learning how to teach others, they were actually learning how to do some of the things that I had incorporated into the course once we had a full program. So now that you have something that you're going to activate, we're going to move on to some subjects, right? They're honestly naturally going to be weaved into them. It's almost impossible to not learn, period, as a child because you're so curious. But on top of that, when you know that you're trying to learn, you're going to start looking out for it, right? So with Tiny Green Chef, for example, obviously there was cooking involved. So there was creating the recipes, that was science, there was math, there was even global studies because we were looking at the different ingredients and finding out where they came from in the world. Turns out tomatoes actually originate in Mexico, where I'm actually living right now, not Italy like we thought previously. So we were actually learning as we were researching and doing all the behind the scenes work. And it covered pretty much all the subjects. It's certainly STEAM, right? Because you have cooking is actually one of the STEAM part of the STEAM thrust. And so what you're looking at here in this slide, we have one of Kaya's other projects, and I'm weaving it in so that you know uh, how many other ways you can do this. So when she was 10 and we were living in Bali, she got certified for scuba diving. She saw it at when she was 9, she saw someone scuba diving and she thought, I want to do that. So we said, why don't you find out when? We have no idea how many years it'll take before you can get certified, but let's plan that in our life. Well, it turned out she only had to wait a few months because you can get certified at 10 years old. So Kaya gets certified. And then eventually, later on, when she turned 12, we were done with her core grammar program. And I wasn't really happy with the 8th or maybe it was the 9th grade curriculum in the program we were using. And Kaya said she wanted to be a writer. So we said, hey, Kaya, now's your time to show us how much you want to be a writer. Because we're going to use this next year, instead of learning grammar, we're going to start practicing it, putting it to work. All of those years of learning how to write essays and stories, let's put it into something larger. And so in that subject, this was about reading and writing in this other project. So she ended up writing a book called Because Kids Can Scuba Dive, which was basically showing how children can do things like scuba diving much earlier. And so in this picture, you see this boy here that she is telling all about how to get scuba dive certified and showing him that she did this at 10 years old. And so with that project, she weaved in so many, not just reading and writing. There was business. She had to learn all kinds of skills. We had to learn, how do we publish a book? So that's way out of your normal curriculum, but it's definitely something that showed us how to do research, how to work with freelancers who illustrated the book. We worked with editors to make sure the book was professionally edited. She had to do research to make sure she wrote the right information because, she had learned how to get scuba dive certified 2 years before. So she had to brush up on everything that she learned to incorporate it into this book. And then it takes us to the next layer in our passion method, and that's skills. And like I said, with something like Kaya's scuba diving book, Because Kids Can Scuba Dive, she was doing all kinds of things. She was learning entrepreneurial thinking, creative problem solving, because boy, did we have to go through freelancers for illustrators before we found the right one. Communication skills, how to communicate her message, how to communicate with freelancers to get the exact design she was looking for in her book, which brought her to leadership skills, social responsibility, because she was creating a book for her peers that actually was based on something real, that it was done well. Global awareness, because this was scuba diving out in the world. And so this is a global message. Anywhere there is an ocean and there is biology, marine biology involved. So she even has some parts in her book so that we know to respect the ocean, because they are obviously coming into the ocean world. And then the next layer in our passion is impact. And I already started to layer on that from the global impact. When we're doing projects in our home, like Tiny Green Chef, for example, we were very clear that we wanted to make a positive impact. There are so many children who are and have all sorts of foodborne diseases, things like, diabetes that they're getting from what they're eating, and heart disease and obesity. And we wanted to be able to address that in a way that was positive and that could actually give practical ways to deal with this. And so it wasn't just benefiting our family, which it was, because our children were learning so many different things, learning how to cook, and we were also doing this together. But we were serving our community in the best way we knew how at the moment. We were contributing to the world, and we were generating value. Not to mention, this became a business of which Kaya and Camilla still to this day have residual income from, because it's an evergreen course. So already by the time we started to film the course, they were 9. They were 7 and 9. So when we launched the course, they were getting closer to 8 and 10. It took quite a while to film it and edit it and then start to publish it. So by the time they were 8 and 10, they already were getting residual income from a project-based program that they created, all from the question, Mommy, what if we created a Mommy and Me cooking course? So I hope you're starting to see how you are already probably doing these things, but now when you know, you can start to put more things in them, charge them up a bit, make them a little, spice them up a bit. And so next is going to be the O, the outcome. So a lot of times people ask us, because while we do use curriculums for our math and science, and they take some things here and there, we are putting it together. So we're not using a curriculum that's a one and done. We piece things together. We like something from this math curriculum here. We like the English curriculum here. We'll use some things are online with OutSchool or programs like that. And so we have to decide how we're measuring this, because we're not measuring ourselves to the school standards. We're creating our own. So we need to know, what is it that we hope is the first outcome? You're going to get many outcomes, right? So Kaya, in the end, for doing her homeschool project for the 8th grade, became a writer, right? She became a published writer. She started selling her books. And on top of that, what we ended up doing, because we saw that this really is a great thing to let children know that they can get scuba dive certified at 10, we ended up taking some kids while we were still living in Bali back to the actual shop that she got certified at. And there were 2 10-year-old boys who got certified. And so that was another great outcome. And we did a book signing there at the dive center. And they have the book there to this day in their shop. And it also helped them realize, wow, we should actually promote this more to bring families and children in to be certified. They weren't doing that. And actually, the way Kaya got certified was when we were doing something called Stone Soup Family Pop-Up. And we'd done one in Bali where I invited 34 families. We were living in this area in Ahmed. And even during that program, we took a few children to be certified, and they hadn't done this before. They just really didn't think that it was a market for it, even though they knew, and they had all the equipment. And of course, it's the same equipment adults use. They had smaller gear for kids, but they just really weren't promoting it. So this was a great outcome for them as well. Another thing with outcomes, if you want to document the journey, you can decide how you do that. Well, ours, number one, it documents itself with Tiny Green Chef. It's an online program. It's right there online. Kaya and Camilla are all throughout. So that's clearly documented. Kaya's book is on Amazon and a lot of the other online platforms. That's clear. But maybe you don't have something that is as clear. So along the way, I would suggest doing things as simple as videos and taking pictures. If you're an Excel person, then you want to categorize the different areas and different subjects and then show the different projects that you've had. My husband's on that, and I'm the creative. I don't do spreadsheets, but he does, and he's really good at keeping spreadsheets and folders for each child, just a simple Google folder showing the different things that they have done. Kaya's book is in there. We have things from Tiny Green Chef, just in case they ever want to go to a college or do something that wants to see proof of what they have done. We have it documented in an area where we can send it to them. And of course, we can also send them to the websites for them to see their actual work that they've been doing. And then the last in our passion method is next level. So we're taking this to what can we take this to the next level? Is there another area that we can now take this where it started so-called small or started with one project and move it into another? Well, here just I'm showcasing Kaya's music because she's also a singer and songwriter. After she started writing a book, she started writing songs. That kind of took it to the next level naturally. She was already playing the guitar. She started a little band while we were in Bali, and she decided I'll start writing songs. And so that kind of all came from her seeing in these years Tiny Green Chef. And Tiny Green Chef actually led to an in-person class that we created, a cooking program in Bali called Little Wild Kitchen. And those were in-person camps that we did that came because as a result of Tiny Green Chef. We had all the materials, we had the know-how, and we created a cooking school for kids in Bali. So that was another way of taking it to the next level. And of course, as you see with the scuba diving, Kaya got scuba dived. She got certified at 10, which led to her writing her first book on scuba diving, which led to us taking children to get certified and led to a book signing there. And so you start to think about how they can overlap and how we can take it as far as we can go with each project. Because every time you do that, it opens something and sparks more inspiration and creativity in our children because they see one thing leads to another naturally while still constantly maintaining all of those subjects and all of the things that we want our children to learn while building things like character skills building. I am really big on what our children really need for the future is great character skills. You can have all the math and all of those things now replaced with things like AI and all kinds of things like that. But what keeps them unique is that humanness, and that comes in our character, and being adaptable is another one. So the next level is really about how can we adapt this to something greater. So when Kaya decided that she wanted to start writing music after she wrote her scuba diving book, there was a kids festival happening in Bali, and they were looking for teen or young people talent. So she entered this festival. Now, we could have just entered the festival, but as my homeschooling brain always thinks, well, how can I make this bigger? How can I take this to the next level? How can I build upon the success of the other areas that they have been showing that they're ready to step up? And so what we ended up doing with this is she had a singing coach for 3 days a week. And then I found a friend who was a producer, and he helped her clean up her songs and get it stage ready. So for about a month and a half, 3 times a week, she was meeting with a singing coach, and she was fine-tuning her songs with an actual music producer. After the first festival, she decided that she wanted to go even further. She wrote a few more songs. Now, the next year came around, and the festival requested that she show up again because they had such a great response from the first year. So on the left, you'll see her picture of her in the first concert. And then the second one, she's in the picture here with this woman actually is a star in a Netflix series that was there and borrowed Kaya's guitar actually because she, I think her guitar didn't come in on the plane or something. So Kaya actually went on after her, and this woman was so impressed. They took a picture and she posted it on her Instagram, this woman's Instagram. And from there, we took that to the next level. And because we were already in contact with the producer in Bali, she actually produced an album, her first EP, which is now on Spotify. She has 6 songs. Her album is called In My Dream, and that's what you see there. So we can really just go with it. And no, is everyone going to do it and take it as far as we have or in the same direction? Absolutely not. But I just want you to see how you can keep taking these and going, and they're like a domino effect. And don't look at them as isolated things. See how you can build on them. Even with just getting Kaya to do the singing lessons 3 days a week, all happened because of the festival, which strengthens her voice, which gave her more confidence, and actually being on that stage, being much more ready than she would have without those lessons. And that led to her thinking, wait a minute, I'm enjoying this. I'm going to write a few more songs. I'd like to produce an album. And so this is the passion method, and I hope it makes sense to you. I wanted to keep it simple and wanted to keep it practical. And I just want to go over it again with you because the mom and the teacher in me. So the first P was purpose. The first letter is P, which stands for purpose. Identifying authentic interests that light up your child, right? Then we're going to activate that into something, some kind of opportunity. Is it a learning opportunity that we can create a whole project around for learning? Is it a business idea? Is it a passion that we can help expand just their character? What kind of subjects are we going to weave in around this, or that are going to naturally happen anyway? You could pay attention to that if you're worried that they are not hitting those. And I guarantee you, if you're doing a project, if you're doing project-based learning, you are going to hit all of the subjects. And that happens naturally. And if you're intentional about it, you'll really be able to go all in. Next S is skills. Just in the back of your mind, you might have some skills you want them to develop upon, or develop upon some skills that you see maybe is their weaker aspect and you want to strengthen them more. Take this opportunity for that. Creative problem solving, entrepreneurial thinking, communications, leadership. So many different skills will come out. You might have some in mind and you can weave those into there, but you might just be surprised with the skills that pop up that you weren't even aware of. So pay attention to those, especially when you go into documenting it. And then the next letter is I for impact. I'm all about understanding that we are creating the leaders and really the value givers of the world in our children. We are all here. We all have a value to give. And we want them to know that they have a right to impact their world. And we hopefully want that to happen in a positive way that gives to the world so that the world can continue to get better, right? By the way they're giving value. So, and how can we do that? We start local. We start in our homes. Then we can move it over into our communities and beyond. And that could be as simple as something literally in your community, or it could be your global community, which is what we did with her book, the scuba diving book, and Tiny Green Chef. And then we're going to think about the outcomes. How are you going to document the journey? What kind of outcomes are you wanting to see? Is this just a personal milestone to boost their self-esteem? Is this something that is on a track for a larger business idea? You know, we personally are homeschooling for entrepreneurship, not for college. Thus, you see so many of these projects we have are helping them get their feet wet in business, because that is something that's important to us and something that we want to make sure that they can do right now. But that may not be your outcome. Your outcome may be college. So then that'll help you think about how you're going to document it. The outcome might just be fun. It might be family bonding. And in that case, you're going to measure that growth in happiness, right? Because all along, you still want your children to be enjoying this. The more they're enjoying this, the more likely they are to continue doing more of it, and they'll start bringing it to you. And then we go to next level. Does this project here present other opportunities beyond it? And I showed you some here where her writing led to a singing project, and that led to an album. And now she's writing more books, and she was just in musical theater here, and it really has given her the confidence to perform on stage, and she's just really blossoming. And so think about all of these ways that you can do that, and starting just with the curious questions that they ask. So listen out for some of those questions and notice if there are some patterns in your child that you can now put into something with a deeper purpose in some type of project-based learning. And so I hope that you have enjoyed this. I wanted to keep it really simple. There are so many examples that I could give, but I want to give you something that you can see that makes sense, that may hit some key points in your home. And I hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Azizi.
You're welcome.
My goodness, that was so good. I'm like, have so many different notes and things. And you make me laugh. It's like the next level piece. I'm like, I feel like that's me. You're just like, how can we just like we go from here to here? And it's like, oh, hang on, this is like being a much bigger project than
Exactly. That's the thing.
Not a bad thing, but
it's not, but it definitely, it keeps the family exciting, right? It keeps them excited when they're like, she's thinking again. Yeah. I can see the light bulb, but that's what's great.
What other crazy ideas mom got?
Yes.
So how old are your children now?
So they are now 13 and 15. And I didn't even get to talk about Camilla's projects. That would be a whole other half hour, but she loves projects, and so do I. And so that's why it works really well. She makes little projects for friends. There was once for birthday presents, for example, we usually make things. We just enjoy trying to personalize things as much as we can. And she got to use AI and different applications by creating a rock, like a best of the bands rock book for a friend who liked these 3 bands. Don't ask me what those bands are right now, but she did the research, and then she used the AI to create the whole template for it, and then designed it in Canva. And then we had it printed out and gave her friend an original project as a birthday gift. So they don't always have to. There's so many ways. And she learned how to use AI. She learned how to create a book. She learned how to use Canva more. She had to edit it. And so there are so many skills and she had fun. And she gave her friend a gift that was totally original. So those are some other ideas. And that was my 13-year-old. She was 11 when she did that one for her friend. We were living in Bali. And so there's so much they can do at these ages that just let them go. And we have so much now with technology that, gosh, the sky is the limit. So, yeah.
I know. I was thinking about that this week. I was like, the whole world, like information-wise, is like in our hand. So it's pretty amazing. I mean, you're like, like even 10 years ago, it was such a completely different situation. And I was just thinking this week, like how exciting that we're here now and our kids are young now. That's totally off topic, but anyway.
No, it's right on topic. But yes.
So you were talking about the spreadsheet, and I know you mentioned that was your husband's kind of area, but do you literally think about the project and like do you map it to any form of curriculum in your mind? You'd be like, okay, that matches that matches that, that matches that. Or you just go like, these are the things that they did and document it rather than try and map it across?
Yeah, we do not compare at all. And that's probably also why we have so much fun, and also why we can just jump right in. We don't use any standard curriculum. We really pick and choose. We're kind of like that a la carte curriculum where we use Matthew Seif, which is a program in itself. We tend to go more for curriculums that are teaching one subject here, and we blend it together. So when my husband's using the spreadsheet, honestly, I think he just loves spreadsheets. But he keeps track. I think he has spreadsheets for his spreadsheets, but he loves them. And I'm so grateful because he can see what's happened year by year just for his brain. And if you are
Mm.
in where you are a little bit more analytical, a little bit more logical, not like me where I'm like, let's do it. He's kind of like, I'm going to document that we did it. And so
Yeah.
he's kind of doing that behind me, which is great because we stay in our lanes. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
creative. I will write the curriculum, like with the Tiny Green Chef. I wrote the curriculum. He was filming, and I was the one cooking and teaching. But he was the one that was like, okay, I need this organized because he was also the one who built the website. So he
Mm-hmm.
needed to keep track of where he's just better at keeping track
At
where
that time.
things go. I'm
Teamwork.
better at
I
making
love it. Teamwork,
it.
right?
And some people do things like, if you're also a physical person, you might want to print it out each and have just like a binder where you have the different subjects or where you have the different projects. Depends on how you're doing it and what you're doing it for. Some people have a binder, and my daughters actually like binders because they like to look back at it and then they can see it. So the spreadsheet is kind of the parent side, but for
Mm-hmm.
your child side, it might be nice to print things out and kind of, almost have a little bit of a historical, almost
Mm.
coffee table style thing for your child so that they can see each year what they have done. And that just is pictures. You might have a few of their writing pieces, just documenting it for their own. And it creates a portfolio for them as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a great idea. And I think it's good to know how we can match both, like this more project fun, exciting, entrepreneurial based, but then also have the backup of, like you were saying, if they do want to go to college or university, or they do want to, decide they want to be accountants or, whatever, that we're not robbing of them of that option because we were deciding to be really fun and just
That's
spur
right.
of the moment.
There is nothing fun about being unprepared for your future. So, yes.
So I think for like a lot of people aren't sure how long they're going to world school for, or how they're like, their kids are really young. And so it's kind of hard sometimes ticking all the boxes. So thank you for sharing how you do it and your approach, because I think that's how we can try things on for ourselves and go, okay, yeah, that actually sounds like an easier way, or like whatever. So thank you for that.
Yes, it's completely manageable. And for people who don't know how long, we're just out in the world. I don't even know if I can call it world schooling anymore. Sometimes I forget where I'm even from. So I'm kind of like, we have to live somewhere, okay? So right now we're living in Mexico, but we are not fast travelers. We take our time, we immerse in the community. But and that might be, you could even look at it as we relocate, right? And so
Yeah.
our children, we're not just hopping from place to place, just trying to soak up things from those countries. But at the same time, we still want to see progression in them. Otherwise, and something that's a little bit off script. And I find even for some people, really, we're homeschooling just out in the world. So even if you're just at the homeschooling stage and you're traveling just here and there, this is great to add into your home, because if you're homeschooling already, you get it and you're already naturally doing it on your own. And now, if you haven't been considering projects, now you realize how much you can do and get in and enjoy it while doing something together. It just hits so many boxes
It's
as a
so much.
family.
Yeah. I think people don't realize that this is an option, because all they know, especially people who are newer to homeschooling, all they know is pandemic version school at home, which was
Right.
not project-based learning. It was just
No.
like, worksheets and like just utter chaos for everybody. And when I registered for homeschooling, which was after that, in where I'm from, there's two options. You can either do subject-based or project-based. I was like, mind blown. Oh my goodness, this is a thing. And I've never
Yes.
seen anybody teach on it. So I love that you've mapped it to a framework where that goes through thinking about that in a deeper way. Like, okay, we could choose anything. So where do we even start? Well, here, this is where you start. So
You really
I
can.
appreciate
And
you
one,
saying so much.
just one thing, just so people know, these projects don't have to be huge. Like I gave you like big picture scenario, right? Turn it into a cooking course. And like, what, is she crazy? No, we're not talking. That's big picture. Even writing and publishing a book, big picture. This could be a day. These could be day projects. This could be a community project. It could be a weekend project. The
Our veggie
idea,
garden is a project.
yes, exactly. So it doesn't need to be a 7 month or a full year curriculum as if it's like a full school thing. It can be, but it can literally be a day project that you are doing start to finish, or a quarter, or something that you even do once a week that you just build upon. What we were doing with Tiny Green Chef, we were filming 4 or 5 days a week because we wanted to get it done. And so that became really full time. And but it doesn't have to be that way. You can pick a weekend project just to get your feet wet and notice how much you can incorporate. The idea is to get your child excited about learning naturally while actually learning something that could be valuable to themselves and giving value to other people. But it could just be something that you do as a family, and that could be a huge outcome, is family bonding, especially if you get to live this way.
Yeah, I think that excitement piece is really, really key, because otherwise, like, you would have found yourself filming by yourself 2 days in, right?
That's right.
Like,
anyone? No,
the kids are going to lose interest if it doesn't come from their passions and they're not invested in it and they're not interested. Like, we all know the kids are just going to give up, and we'll be left with the rest of it, with all of these half-done things.
Yep. Or they'll just make your life a living nightmare. Nobody knows anything about that, right? So yeah, don't push it to the point where it is no longer a passion or a purpose, that it's like pain. If it's starting to feel painful, pull back. Maybe it's not the right time, or maybe you need a different approach, especially if it's something your child was interested in and suddenly they're like, I don't want to do it. It might mean you're going too hard on it, and that you're kind of taking the fun and enjoyment. Let them lead it. Remember, this is not like one and done and forever and ever, amen. This is one project out of many. Don't try and perfect it. Really keep them engaged. That's so important. My youngest daughter, Camilla, who is 13, is now in an entrepreneurial program online. And she's decided that she wants to be a chef. And I'm kind of like, yeah. So, it's like, it's just been a natural part of the home. And it's great to see that, because I was asking her, what's your project going to be? She doesn't need to pick it now. It's a program that's 4 years. But she's like, oh, I want to be a chef. All that cooking we've been doing at home, I want to do it. So she wants to really work on a new angle for Tiny Green Chef. And I'm like, look at this. So it started with her older sister, and now it's kind of trickled down. And her older sister, she's moved on to her own stuff. She's not really interested in this, and we don't push it. She's like, did those residual checks come in? That's all I need to know. But apart from that, she's like, hey, and that's fine. It served it, and she's still a great cook. And so that works.
Job done.
Yeah. So it can have things that you don't see years down the line. We filmed Tiny Green Chef in 2020, and we're in 2024. So yeah, it's still paying off from just that experience that's keeps paying off. So yeah,
and planting the seed, right? And then I think too, we have to be hands off, or we get invested in an outcome that, like, we push the outcome for them, whereas it could just be fun for like you were saying, like just something they enjoy doing for the sake of enjoyment rather than being extended into something else. And so picking and choosing, I think, is really fun.
Yeah, totally.
Is there anything else, Azizi? Anything else you wanted to mention that we didn't talk about?
I'm just going to scan through my notes, which I didn't use. I always make notes, but it's up in my head. So
Actually, definitely tell us about your books too. I can see them in the background. Talk to me about
yes. These are actually my books, my Because I Am series. So I'll just take a few of them. So this is sort of a series here. This is one of them. I'm a winner because I am. And then there's also I'm beautiful because I am, which I'm excited about. I'm grateful. And now my background's not going to be as pretty. And I'm I'm a genius. Oops, genius just fell. That's just like a genius. And then I'm a genius, and then I'm patient. And these actually are me. And here's the thing. This is actually it actually is right in line with this because this happened from my daughter being the first published author in the home. And I always wanted, I knew there was a writer in me, and I didn't, because my family said, oh, writers don't make money. You see how parents and elders can kill a passion.
Yeah.
And when I helped my daughter, actually, I go through the process of creating her book, I went, wait a minute. Am I a do as I say, not as I do parent? No, this doesn't feel right. Right. She's writing and I have a desire. And so these books came about. And this was the first one, I'm Beautiful, really because I just felt so disheartened by so many body image issues that I see happening in kids. And I thought, what can I don't want to add any negativity. I don't want to add any blaming. What can I add to this that adds positivity? And then I just heard that title, I'm Beautiful because I Am. And then I heard I'm a genius because I am. And so they all have a different spin on what it means to be beautiful and a genius and creative and grateful. And my daughters were I actually wrote and illustrated these books. So I also taught myself how to illustrate.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
that's massive.
Yes. Because this is what happens, right? Like I said, you start with one thing and then all of a sudden I'm going, well, where do I go from here? And I use this passion method, even though I didn't realize it, I was using it. This is how I was doing things myself. And so I ended up teaching myself and learning how to illustrate. And I'm really excited and proud of myself. Yes, I am.
What did you use?
So I learned so just to show you one of my favorite pages in here. Look at that. So I used a combination of learning how to do digital more with not hand drawing, but using graphics and learning how to manipulate them. I use some things in Canva. And there are, in some of my books, in some of these pages, it might look like a simple page, but they're like 30 layers where I'm like, I need a little thing here, and then I put a little thing there, and I learn how to change the colors. And then I find people on Fiverr that help me with the eyes because I just couldn't figure out how to make them consistent because I'm not a natural drawer. I was showing them what I want. And so this is another thing. Parents, we have to continue to allow ourselves to keep learning. Where are our projects that we are using to push us to the next level? The subjects I had to incorporate into there. And I should have wrote this book first because it required a lot of patience. This one I wrote fourth. I was thinking it was very painful, the first two or three. So that's what these books, and these books are on Amazon now. My daughter's books are on Amazon, and now I am a published author too, and I feel really proud of myself.
Congratulations, and well done for saying I feel proud of myself, because I think too we don't, like, sometimes we can shy away from that, and so like I'm so glad you're sitting in that and like actually celebrating all of that hard work.
Thank you. Amazing. You know, this is the thing with the World School community. A lot of people want to come into this community because they want to live a life that they think is possible when they have the time, and they have basically are the driver. You're finally in the driver's seat of your life. What will you do? Where will you go? And so I really encourage people. This is a little bit outside of my topic, but to really, when you're thinking about world schooling, I know it's really great and exciting to see other countries, and it is. But for many of us, this can be the first time you are deciding to do something off script that really feels good to you. Don't stop there. Don't just use it as an opportunity to go into other people's lives when you're going to different countries. And because newsflash, they're kind of doing similar things we're all doing, and they're just doing it through their own culture and their own language. But what's yours? Like, what's your world school vision? How do you want to be out in the world? So you got a book in you, please write that book. If you have it in you, somebody wants to read it. Believe me, because that's how this works. So as you're out there in the world, don't just use it as a time for an extended tour or vacation. Like, capitalize on this time that you have dedicated to doing life that in a way that feels good and elevated. Keep going with that. And you can use that passion method for yourself. You really can. Yeah. It works for anyone. What's your purpose? So
yes, you're speaking my language. Oh, I lost you, I think.
Am I here?
Oh, yeah, just a little crackly. Thank you, Azizi. I appreciate you so much for sharing this with us, for taking the time and being so generous with your knowledge, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me and hosting this. It's going to add a lot of value to a lot of people. So
fun. I can't wait. I can't wait for everyone to see this one. And I'll any questions, make sure you pop them in the comments. Both Azizi and I will be checking those. And that's it. Thank you very much. That's all. I could talk to you all day. I've got so many other things. Maybe we have to do a round two.
Let's do a round two.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Good night, everybody. Or